Hi, this is a VR to Scotch Pipes for his. Um, he wanted to know what a good dad was, what we felt a good dad was. But first of all, the housekeeping. I'm smoking my cob pipe, and in it I've got plum pudding, special reserve, which I'm beginning to like very well. It's smoking easily, it's packed easily. And the pipe's keeping light. In some way, and the music in the background, I hope it's not too loud, is the St. Benedict Choir, a monastery choir, singing Gregorian chant. In some ways, for me, what's a good dad is quite difficult, because I come from what would be called a troubled home, with very abusive parents. But I have my own ideas of what a good father is. I'm not sure I was, although Tim says that I was reasonable enough, and Rebecca, my daughter, says that I was a doddle, that she could wrap me around her little finger, which is probably true. It's one of those difficult things to bring up children. You're never really sure of how to do it. You don't get any lessons on it. You're suddenly married, and maybe a few months later the first child comes along, and you've got to learn as you go along, and that can be quite worrying. But most children get adequate parenting, thank God. But from what I've seen on here, there are some really good dads. I think the ability to play with the children when they're young is important. When I was a father in the early days, we were stuck with work really in a sort of quite difficult situation sometimes. Shift work's very difficult. It's difficult on the family as well, because Carolyn would try and keep the children quiet when I was in bed, which was, at least for 2 shifts, that would be 2 weeks maybe out of the 3 weeks. But even so, we tried to do as much with the children as possible. I'd read them Lord of the Rings with them, sort of sat on the settee or sat on my knee, and try and do the voices, especially Gollum, trying to make Gollum when he spoke, and they still remember that, I think. I tried not to smack the children, but at the time I was sort of suffering problems with my nerves, so getting angry was something that just happened. I think a good father would try and make sure that the children were taken out and taken to different places. I'm not sure how good I was at that. But as they grew up, we tried to keep a light hold on them, because we'd lost one child. Michaela died the day after she was born. And when you lose a child, it usually affects you in one in two ways. The first one is that you're very protective of the children, that you hold them very close, that you fear that something nasty might happen to them. And that possibly was there in the back of our minds, but also was the fact that you recognise that life was short, and that you tried to give the children as much freedom as possible. And that's what we did. We tried as much as possible to give them freedom. I'm trying to think of other things that I think a good father should do. I think he should be slightly disciplinarian. I mean, Tim said recently in one of his videos that he was quite frightened of me when he was little. Not because I'd done anything, but because I was big and he was small. I don't think I believe in smacking children, although we did. I think if you can find another way around it, that's better. I mean, we had a friend of ours whose child got on her nerves and she lost her temper. And she actually smacked him and sent him upstairs. And he came down when she called him down, he came down and said, "Mummy, was I being naughty or were you just being grotty?" And she had to admit that she was just being grotty, that she'd got frustrated and that kind of thing. I think where I did let the children down, and let them down very badly, was over schooling. I didn't push them, and I should have done. We moved around so much that it was frustrating for all of us. And often when we moved, there were a different set of lessons at each school. And sometimes they even had to drop back to a lower school because that was the system. I didn't want to put too much pressure on them and make them ill that way. But I really should have put a bit more on and tried to get them through things and pass exams and that kind of thing. But, you know, you learn. And the children got adequate parenting. I always tried to treat the children with respect. And from quite early age, I tried to treat them almost as adults, you know, certainly as individuals with their own needs and their desires. And as they grew up, even more so. Giving them freedom at an earlier age, maybe, than some people would. But I don't think that's harmed them at all. You know, my relationship with Tim is very, very special to me. And my relationship to my daughter is, my daughter can talk to me about anything, including the most intimate sort of things. Carolyn and I are sometimes talking to her over the phone and we have it on speaker so that we can both hear. And I learned things about women that maybe most men at any age don't learn, but, you know, that's all right. That it's important that they should be able to say to me what they want to say, and that I should be able to respond, be the safe place, the place where childhood and adulthood meet. Although now my children are adults, in fact they're in middle age, and I keep telling them before long they're catching me up. So that's even more difficult. And as you get older, there are different pressures on you as a father. You know, the grandfather role, which comes for a lot of people. But that can be a great time because you can wind the grandchildren up. You can get them hyper and then hand them back to the parents, you know, and say, well, bye-bye, it's been a lovely time. And the grandchildren think you're great because you've been crawling on the floor, giving them piggyback rides, or playing hide and seek and climbing on top of the wardrobe or whatever. And the poor parents have to put up with that. I don't think I want to say any more about being a good father or what it means to be a good dad, because I don't think I was particularly, and my own father wasn't, so I've got nothing to judge it on. But I hope that this is all right. I hope as a VR. I'm going to stop it there, I think, and just wish everybody the best.